Hey, everybody, this is Gene Hoglan, and you are listening to Heady Metal with Jeff Olson. Crank it up, brothers. Hello, this is Gene.
Gene Hoglan, it's Ole Olson, the Heady Metal Show. What's up?
Ole, how are you, brother?
Very good, man. I got a few questions for you. This is great.
Ole, I got to tell you, man, we've met years and years and years ago when you guys were tracking Psalm 9.
Oh.
And like I got to be around the session like one day and had a little chat with you, and I just told you what a great drummer I think you are and how you've been an influence on my playing. Absolutely, brother. So it's a real honor to be doing this with you, man. Totally.
Oh, same here. I waited a long time to do this interview, and very stoked.
Me too, brother.
Well, great. First up, Atomic Clock, Gene Hoglan. My first question is, your complete focus at this day and month, is it dedicated to Testament only?
Well, it as of about 10 days ago, it was completely Testament for this month, for this tour that we're on with Anthrax. However, you might have heard Charlie Benanti had to go home. He's got some family stuff going on, so he came to me during like the second or third show and said, "Hey, man, I've got to go home. Do you think you could take over my spot while I'm gone?" I was like, "Sure, man. It's a total honor to be asked." So I took the next couple of shows, and I sat behind Charlie while he was playing, and I filmed him with my phone, and I've got the ultimate Charlie drum cam footage right now, and I've just been studying all his parts, and so now I'm doing double duty with Anthrax. This is my sixth show tonight, sixth or seventh show or something tonight with them, and it's coming together. The last couple of shows I got really locked in super tight, and it's like a lot of these songs are quite old, so a lot of the arrangements have changed a little bit, and a lot of Charlie's licks have changed. So they're not like the record, so it's not like I could just go, okay, I'm going to YouTube all your studio versions and then play your songs. I've been studying what Charlie's doing now, and so that's why a couple of things might not be the same as the record, but it is what Charlie's doing now. So I'm trying to do that for the rest of the band, for the rest of Anthrax, because they're obviously used to these arrangements and used to this new lick coming here as opposed to the 25-year-old lick sort of thing. So I'm just trying to get all his licks in there too, and it's finally coming together. Boy, my hands, they are hamburger, man. I should send you a pic of what my hands have been doing. So they're pretty shot.
That's great. That'll lead me to this question then. Since you're playing in both groups, do you change then your style when you're with Anthrax and your kit around or anything to be like Charlie's, other than what you just said? Do you change anything else up?
Yeah, we take my kit down and I play Charlie's kit and I play his configuration.
Cool. Because he uses all of his drums. He's not a guy that has like a 10-piece kit but only uses those two toms there. He uses everything, and there is some pad work, some electronic stuff, some samples that I got to learn those too. And this is my first time ever playing samples live myself. Anytime I've ever had samples, it's either through our keyboardist, say like with Strappy Young Lad, we had live keyboardists doing all the samples, and like say with Fear Factory or Death Clock, all of our sample type stuff is on a track, on a click track, and I'm playing to that, so it's all pre-recorded on Fear Factory and Death Clock. So this is the first time I'm having to do some of these on-stage samples myself, and that just adds a little more of a challenge to it. It's like, oh yeah, you always and like there's one song where there's it's a current song off their latest record. It's called In the End, and it's the song that they wrote for Dimebag Darrell and Ronnie James Dio, and it's got some really ominous bells going through the whole thing. So I'm like, oh yeah, don't forget to hit the bell through the whole song, keep it in the pad because you don't want to forget any of that.
But yeah, so I just play Charlie's kit. You know, I just figured that would be easier, and the guys are used to, you know, Charlie's licks on his kit. There was one show that we've had already where it's like, okay, you're not going to be able to fit both kits on this stage. There's no room on the side for, you know, putting one kit up and then tearing that one down and putting the other one up for the other show. There's just no room, period, on the stage or on the backstage. So, you know, you got to commit to one kit. So the decision was made for me. It's like, Gene, you're going to play your drums tonight. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great for Testament, but, you know, not so good for Anthrax, but everybody understood, and it's all good. And, yeah, so just, and you know, that adds another challenge, you know, jumping off your kit that you know very well onto somebody else's kit that you don't know too well. So,
wow.
But, you know, we made a couple of minor adjustments. I raised the toms a little bit because Charlie's a little smaller guy than I am. I'm a little longer, so, you know, his reach is a little closer, so I've had to raise up the toms, and that's about all we've done. So,
incredible answer. Just, that's, wow. It surprises me even more, you know. Lots of information in that. That's really cool. What was it like? What was it like recording the new album, The Dark Roots of Earth, for Testament? Anything that stood out there?
Well, the material is super strong, man. For those Testament fans out there, I think they're going to be stoked with this record. You know, it actually kind of has a little bit of an older Testament vibe to it in some of the beats and stuff, kind of going back to some of the like the beats that were involved in songs like, you know, The New Order and Trial by Fire and you know, earlier stuff than that. So it's got kind of an old school vibe to it, I think. And the way that we put that one together was, I got a call from Eric Peterson and Chuck Billy about 2 weeks before they were ready to record or ready to start going, and I was just heading out on the road with Fear Factory for a 2-week stint across the States, and they called me up the day I was leaving and said, hey, man, do you think you might be able to, you know, get some time in 2 weeks? And I'm like, dudes, I have exactly 2 weeks available in 2 weeks. So if we want to get this together, we will have 2 weeks to rehearse and record the record, and also try to make it sound like we've spent, you know, a good 6 months, you know, in the process. You know, we tried to make it sound like, you know, we took a lot of time because, well, each day we did, you know, especially in tracking, you know, like it was a lot of, okay, we've got some bitch and takes down. Why don't we start trying to do some alternative beats on some of these things and alternative arrangements and stuff like that. So we tried to make it sound like, you know, we crammed 6 months of love into the 2 weeks that we had. So yeah, but I think the record's going to be really killer. I think people are going to be stoked when they hear it, man. It's a strong Testament album. I've got to hear like about 2 tracks so far, and sounds really killer. Chuck Billy's vocals are incredible. I think Chuck is doing a few things that he hasn't done, you know, like melody-wise, that are really killer, really awesome, really strong. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be stoked with it. I think it's going to be really killer.
Let's ask some musical things about what you do. Do you have a warm-up, or, you know, mentally or physically before you play?
Sure. Well, I guess when it comes to really quick recording, like say, my warm-up is pretty much, I will just get on the kit, do my stretches really quick, and then to warm up before I track the song, I'll play the song through a couple of times. And, you know, they'll record those versions too, but you know, it all depends on how well rehearsed I am with the song. If it's something where, yes, I've been rehearsing this song for weeks or months or whatever, then I can just jump on it and just get going. But if it's something where I'm learning that song as I go,
as many times as I can play it is the best way for me. So I'll play through the song a couple of times while they're tracking it, and then, you know, by take 3 or 4, that's when the strong ones start coming, and then I'll do another couple extras and stuff. But like I say, if it's something I'm well rehearsed on, give me one pass through to warm up. Usually the second take is the keeper, and if you need to comp something from the first one, okay. You know, because throughout my history, it's like I've been in a lot of bands that don't really have the budgets for, okay, Gene, you got 2 weeks in the studio to get tones, take your time with every song. Usually it's like you've got 3 days, and half of one of those days, a big chunk of like your first day, is going to be involved in getting tones. So, and usually if hang on one second. I think, yeah. So if I, what was I saying? Just that, yeah, that's for studio anyway. And live, my prep, it differs from band to band. Like, with say something like Fear Factory, I'll warm up for like 10 minutes, just do a little pad work, you know, and I wear leg weights. I wear these giant boots when I play, these fucking, you know, I've had the same boots for, God, 8, 9 years now or something, and I play in these big, you know, Doc Marten kind of looking boots, and I wear leg weights. So, like, say, with the Fear Factory, I'll keep the weights on for about the first 5 or 6 songs of the set, and then we start cooking. You know, that's when and, you know, just playing with leg weights on, that really warms up your feet. And, you know, the concept behind the leg weights is, you know, you take off the leg weights and your feet fly. And, you know, so I'll play the first few songs of the set with leg weights on, then take them off. That's when we start getting into the cooking double bass for the rest of the set. And, like with Testament, we have about 12-song set, 14-song set, and I'll wear the leg weights up until we start playing the Dave Lombardo material, like songs like DNR, and I'll take them off for that. You know, and I'm nice and warmed up, you know, some Holland double bass and that. I just want to make sure you know, it's when you're playing somebody like Dave Lombardo's parts, you want to play them right. You know, when you're playing somebody like Charlie Benante's parts, you want to play them right. It's kind of like playing a Rush song. You got to play it, you know, really well, note for note, or don't bother. So, but I must admit, with this tour, since I started doing both bands, I've stopped wearing the leg weights during the Testament set, you know, so I figured, why kill myself? I'm already playing, you know, 30 songs a night or whatever it is, you know, why go the extra mile and just totally destroy yourself? So, and with Testament, the double bass involved with Testament is pretty much in my wheelhouse everywhere. So I can go on stage with Testament with absolutely no warm-up if I have to, which I've had to a couple of times. Like last night, for instance, it was, you know, I was just trying to take a nap before the show, and I was just struggling to get up and wake up by the time I hit the stage, and so I didn't really warm up at all last night. I did my stretches, and I usually use some big marching core sticks to warm up with, because that's kind of the same concept as the leg weights. You know, you put some thinner sticks in your hands; those are lighter, and you're quicker on those. And so after the Testament show last night, I was so asleep for the first song or two. I thought I was fine. I thought I was doing good. And then after the show, Chuck's like, "Hey man, what happened in that first song? You blew right past that part." I'm like, "I did? I don't remember that at all." Usually, if I blow it or something on stage, I'm like, "Okay, I caught that." But yeah, last night, you know, Chuck was like, "Dude, what happened there?" I'm like, "I can't even remember, man. Seriously, I thought I did good," because I'm off stage going, "Hey man, great show, guys." And it was like, "What happened?" So
I've been there,
man. If I get good rest, if I get good rest on the road, playing 2 sets is not really, it's not hard, because there were times when I was living in Vancouver where I was in like 4 to 5 different bands up in Vancouver that I would have like 4 rehearsals a day, like 4 full rehearsals. So, playing 2 sets a night, that's not hard, and I can even give her, I can even like headbang and get into it and all that sort of stuff. I've got a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's great answer there, plenty of information on that. Did you play, are you a click track kind of guy when you practice, and do you have to practice anymore? I mean, what's that like if you, I know you don't have a whole lot of time, off time, it sounds like.
That's basically it. I don't really get the chance to practice. Like for instance, I live in San Diego now, but my drums are usually up in L.A., which is, 100 miles away, and they're usually stored at the Fear Factory studios, and, so, like, just, hey, I feel like going down to my drum kit today and doing some jamming. That's not really an option if I ever have any off time. I play my sister-in-law's kit. She's a ripping death metal drummer. And so I'll go down to her studio, and my fiance have a studio together me and my fiance will go jam, because my fiance is a ripping, destroying metal guitarist. So we like jamming together, and she'll help me prepare for stuff. Like, for instance, when I had to do Brian Beller from Death Clock's DVD, and he wanted to do some Death Clock songs on there, and I'm like, okay, well, it's been some time since we played some Death Clock stuff, so I have a choice of either going in cold or, going down to the local space and jamming on the sister-in-law's kit. And my fiance said, okay, brother, what songs are you learning? And what 3 songs does he want to do? I'm like, Bloodlines, Death Support, and I think it was the coffee jingle or something, or maybe the death theme or something. So she's like, okay. She took a couple hours, learned all the songs, and she's like, okay, if you want to go jam, let's go jam. I'll help you out. So that's really cool. I got a little guitar machine in the family here. So, but actually practice, it's been quite some time since I've had a lot of time to work out licks and stuff. So, fortunately, I've been the kind of drummer, and I've said this for years and years and years, that drumming, for me anyway, is 90% mental, 10% physical. So as long as I got the parts in my head, and if I can imagine a lick or a fill, I'll play it. No matter how technical it is, I can usually bash it out on the first round there. So that's where there's a lot of mental preparation, like with doing the Anthrax stuff. Like we got one rehearsal. The day of the show that I was going to take over, we did get one rehearsal, and we actually went to a friend of the band's place in Indianapolis, and we rehearsed all the set for a few hours. But that was that. I'm just in my bunk, mentally preparing, and hey, I was stoked to get that rehearsal, because like when I joined the Testament tour on the Testament Anthrax Death Angel tour that happened in the fall, in like October and November, I got no rehearsal whatsoever. I flew in on a plane and jumped on stage. And I was tracking an album for the 3 or 4 days before that. And so I did a clinic, then I tracked an album, then I did the Testament thing, all in the course of like 5 days. So I prepared mentally for a couple of weeks before the Testament thing, but then I had to shut down the few days before and concentrate on the material that I was recording. So it's not like I was in my hotel room that night listening to Testament stuff. On the plane flight from where I was recording down to their first gig, I went over the iPod and reviewed their material, then jumped on stage. No rehearsal, no anything. So So to get a rehearsal with Anthrax, you know, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, okay, I'll take it. So
that's cool. Let's shift some gears. You're cited in 42 associations on the wiki. And are there any times you felt you would have liked to have redone anything, gone back in time, maybe technology-wise or just your own development? And then there's another kind of sequel question to that going forward.
Well, you know, I listened back to some of the old Dark Angel stuff, and I'm like, wow, you know, if I knew then what I know now, things, you know, I mean, that was just full visceral. This kid he has no idea, no concept about drums. He just loves playing drums, and it just sounds like it. They were very enthusiastic performances. But yeah, you know, I listened back to some of the death stuff that I did, like stuff off of Symbolic, and it's more like certain beats. I'm like, wow, I sure wish I didn't have so much kick drum going there. I wish I kind of, you know, maybe just simplified this here, because like with Symbolic, it was pretty much, you know, just go at all times, you know, just make it nonstop crazy. So I just, you know, you go back and you listen to some of the old stuff, and you're just like, man, I wish I could have created a better part at the time. And, you know, people come to me and say, dude, you're crazy. You know, like, it's just cool. Don't even worry about it. And I'm like, well, you know, I wish I could have made things a little more solid, you know?
That's a great question for, you know, every musician.
Oh, I mean, especially when you're done with the record, you know, as soon as you're done with it and you start rehearsing the songs that you're going to start playing live, and then you start, you know, you're like, I wish I had, you know, I wish I had just, you know, there's so many songs so many albums I've done where there are no rehearsals. You know, I fly in, we start tracking, you know, so it's just the way I've learned the songs. And sometimes you've got a week to learn the song. You know, they send you a disc or something, or a cassette back in the day, and you take a week to learn the songs in your head, and then you play them the way you've mentioned.
I'd like to go specifically on the record Alien with Strapping.
Sure.
When you would play just some glorious, creative, written drumming in a way, you know, just so melodic drumming. Let's say it's like Devin's playing like a 30-second note kind of run, and you're just answering. Do you write that out with him, or did you play a few grooves and it inspired Devin or any of the other guys? Or does Devin just come to you on Alien specifically?
Sure.
And one of them would be, let's say, like on Re-Ride, or, you know, just the way that you're interacting on 30-second notes on guitar. He's going, and you're like, but that don't, you know, you're just kind of like wonderfully counterpoint. How does that all come about?
Well, awesome. That's a great question. Well, to take, like, say, a song like We Ride, Jed Simon wrote that one. And so what that started off as was, after we were done tracking, we thought, well, why don't we try to use some of the computer technology that's involved? Gene, go in there, track. You know, Jed had a couple ideas that were about 1.5 minutes long, 2 minutes, you know, not quite fleshed out songs, but a bunch of riffs put back to back. And it was like, why don't we go in, play your riffs that you have, then, you know, maybe if we, you know, we can, you know, we do have the technology to cut and paste and all that sort of stuff. So We Ride, for instance, was one that we tracked about 2 minutes of it, and then we did some cutting and pasting to turn that into a song. And that's the only song on that record that's like that. But all the parts were played. It's just been, they were then arranged in in just, okay, the verses are going to go here. This riff's going to be the chorus. So we only played that riff once. We got to play it. We got to cut that one in again. Stuff like that. Just utilize the Pro Tools in that regard. But that was played. But Alien was written for the most part from the ground up by Devin and myself. We got to spend about 6 months rehearsing, and that was that was pretty fortunate. Because like on City, for instance, we got 4 days of rehearsal before we tracked that one. And one of those days was in February. There was another rehearsal in May, and then we did 2 rehearsals right before we tracked the record in July. So, it runs the gamut with scrapping, for instance. So that's cool. But Alien was pretty much constructed from the ground up by Devin and myself. Lots of rehearsing. We spent a lot, 4 or 5 days a week just jamming and jamming and jamming, and that was pretty cool. As was the Chicken Feather record. We spent a lot of months just jamming songs out, but on this one it was just Devin and myself doing that one. So it was a lot of influence, and Jed and Byron would stop in because they were both out with Fear Factory at the time. Byron was playing bass for him, and Jed was actually teching for him. So they'd stop in, or they'd swing on in for a couple of days, and Jed would lay down a riff, drop down some riffs for us, and so like Jed wrote like a big giant chunk of the song "Love" off. He wrote the big main riffs and stuff. So Jed had a real part in that record. I wrote a couple riffs here and there. So, but the 2 most fun songs to work out were definitely Skepsis and Shitstorm, because right then we were both getting into a really dark place just in our own personal lives, where it's like a lot of anger was coming out. So Skepsis is just a nuts song. I don't think there's a metal song ever been written that sounds like that one. It's like, what in the world is that thing? Yeah, there's that. And then Shitstorm, Jed actually wrote a riff in Shitstorm. He wrote the opening riff, and then we just took that riff and then we just built on that. And Shitstorm came out pretty nuts too. Talk about running the gamut from just, grind to glory in Shitstorm, totally. Those are fun.
It sounds angelic, and when it gets to that part, it's crazy. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Just one big rant with a little breather towards the end,
Well, cool. We're ready to conclude with a little bit of personal life stuff. You've answered the question already, because I always ask, are you married and do you have any children? So,
well, to answer the children question, yeah, I got kids. They're all in jars.
Awesome.
Back when I was a younger kid, boy, I tell you, it wasn't. Yeah, that's awful, man. So that's cool. But my fiance, like I say, she's a ripping metal guitarist, and we enjoy jamming together. She's the best writing partner I've had in years, man. She fucking writes riffs that are psychotic and killer and catchy and wicked. So I'm stoked about that. It's really fun to be able to jam with your girl, and plus she's really hot.
Cool. And I don't have my notes in front of me. I had the name of her group and her name. What's her name and the band then?
Her name is Laura Christine, and she's known in the death metal field from a band called Warface.
Oh, that's it. Warface. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Very underground death metal legend.
Yeah. Did your father and grandfather play or write music?
I think my granddad, yeah. Well, I know that when I was a kid, my granddad was in his 60s, and he decided to grow his hair long, dye it red, and then he joined a rock band.
Wow.
And this is still when I was a young teenage kid, So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. My granddad just joined a fucking rock band. Cool.
Awesome.
And my dad was, I guess, a little more artistic in the drawing side of things and also the engineering side of things. Like, my dad helped design the space shuttle.
Wow.
So
Holy
he
shit.
was part of the design crew on the space shuttle. So I get some brains from my dad, and I get to get some talent from my granddad. So
that's cool. Cool.
And what's really funny is my dad looks nothing like me. When people see us together, they're like, "You're kidding." My dad. I'm 6'4", large and brown, and my dad is like 5'8", tiny and pink. He's just a tiny little pink guy. That's what I was saying. Like, what are the odds of having a guy who is Mexican, Swedish in a band? And now Testament has two guys that are Mexican and Swedish. Eric Peterson, myself. What are the odds? That's pretty nuts. And it's the same configuration. His dad's a Swede. His mom's Mexican. My dad the same way. So, and I've got a whole bunch of other stuff in me. But it's pretty funny if you ever see me and my dad together, because he kind of, before he shaved his head, before he went bald, shaved his head, he kind of looked a little bit like Jimmy Carter or Leslie Nielsen or something. And just imagine Leslie Nielsen being Gene's dad. You just don't really see it. But that's pretty fun.
Awesome. This is one of my favorite. The personal questions are my favorite, I think, sometimes.
Sure, man.
Awesome. What do you like other than drums, guitar, touring, and recording?
Rest. I am the legend of lethargy, I swear. Even my drumming is lazy. I'm a lazy drummer. I try to make things as easy as possible. So if I ever get the chance to kick the feet up on the couch and flip on the tube, I'm there. I love sports. So ESPN is on pretty much a constant. For me, if I get to see it, I'll stay up past. I'm usually the last guy to bed, and on the road and stuff. So I know whoever wakes up and flips on the TV out in the front lounge will always probably flip it onto Sports Center or whatever, because that's what I've left it on before I went to bed. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love the Dallas Cowboys. I was born in Dallas, so I love the Cowboys and all that. And I love listening to music. However, when people ask, hey, what are you listening to these days? And it's always the next project, the next thing I got to be doing. I'm listening to that. So, on the Fear Factory tour, I'm checking out the New Testament stuff, and on the Last Testament tour, I'm checking out the next stuff that I'm going to be doing. I did a lot of reviewing of Testament while I'll spend a lot of time in my bunks reviewing material, and so yeah. But my all-time favorite god is Stevie Wonder. He's my god. He's my favorite drummer. I got to stalk him at the NAMM show, and I stalked him for 25 minutes as he walked from booth to booth to booth with a giant entourage of security keeping us all back. But I got to touch him. I got to film myself touching him and tell him I loved him. And then he goes and sits down on the drum kit 5 feet away from me, and I got all that on film too. And there's tears running down my face. It's like meeting God to me. I've always said if I ever got to meet Stevie Wonder, I would die, just fucking die. And I didn't get to meet him, but I got to touch him. I got to touch his back. That's
cool. That's a great thing. When did you know you would pursue your career?
When I was 11.
Wow. Cool.
I grew up with a very athletic background, and I was a really good pitcher in baseball, and so I kind of had a choice of going pro baseball player route or playing rock and roll. And I was always into rock and roll, man. That's been my passion for my entire life. Music has been the passion, and baseball was I love playing baseball too, but baseball, there were no Dennis Rodmans or anybody like that back when I was young. So I had really long hair, and my coaches were always telling me, you got to cut your hair if you want to play on the team. And I'm like, fuck, I ain't cutting my hair. So I would purposely fuck with all the rest of the league. I'd wear my sister's clothes to the game. I'd wear like leg warmers as I pitched. Leg warmers are fucking gay, but I'd wear leg warmers. I'd wear makeup. I just, and I was just so into non-conformity back then, and sports was all about conformity. Now you can have a freakazoid, tattooed, nose-pierced guy on your team, and nobody thinks twice about it. Now football players, God, half the guys have fucking long hair. So back in the day, it wasn't accepted. So I was like, hey, rock and roll accepts me as I am. And so when I was 11, I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to play drums in a band for a living. And, that's, talk about like quantum physics or something like that, and I had a dream. I got to follow it. I'm one of the most fortunate men in the world, because how many people get to, have a dream at 11? Usually when you're 11, you're like, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a policeman. I want to be an astronaut. And then you end up working in an office. Me, I had a dream. I stuck with it. A lot of lean years, but I had music. I had playing. I had all of this. So my dream has kept me alive, and now my dream is giving me a living, so I'm very fortunate. That's why I'm a pretty positive dude. I don't really have a lot of down days, It's like, Gene, why are you so positive? I am literally living the dream, How cool is that? Shit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, let's conclude this way. I always do this. This is the question I always ask, and there's many ways you can answer it. So many people answer differently. And the question is, what would you like to say to the entire world? We're on internet radio and internet blogs right now with this. What would you like to say to the entire world at this time?
Get your shit together. Pretty much about it.
All right, special thanks to the Atomic Clock, Gene Hoglan. I gotta say, during the interview, a history time capsule here to honor Charlie Benante and Frank Bello. For Charlie's mother had passed. They had left the tour for Anthrax to be at their mother and their grandmother's side. That's Charlie Benante, Frank Bello. And she had passed during the making of this interview, and we just respect that and hope that they're all blessed and rest in peace.